On today's older advanced lesson, we are going to do Merfolk. So I have done, and I had it here a second ago. Ah, there it is, yes. I've done a few Merfolk in my time as a artist from Magic the Gathering. And so, I don't know if you can see here without that reflection. This is one of the cards I did, Protective Bubble from the Lorwyn set. So I'm going to do a Merfolk of that type. So a little bit more feral, a little bit more scary than the Happy Mermaid I made earlier today. So let me get my good solid paper out, and then we will get to start drawing. Oh, by the way, this was yesterday's drawing, which was a goblin riding a wolf. I did some more cleaning up on it and sharpen up some of the lines, and probably if I was going to continue this drawing, I'd erase some of this stuff out. And I might just do that just for fun, because this was a really good one, a really fun one at least. So here we go.
You know, while you're doing that changeover, I'm going to hold up that merfolk painting.
Oh, that's
Where'd it go?
On the other side. What merfolk painting?
The little card.
Little card? I don't know where I put it.
Oh.
It doesn't matter.
It's okay. It's
It's
already
right here. Yeah, I need a new piece of paper though.
Okay.
This is called planning, folks.
So while Steve is getting his new piece of paper, I'm going to try to let you see.
This is my beautiful assistant and wife, Yamila Fournier. So we're going to zoom in on my drawing paper today,
Okay.
like we did last time. So I want it just to focus on the page, because otherwise it gets too confusing.
And by zoom in, he just means I move the camera.
Yeah, we moved the camera in. So just bear with us for a second while we get our camera in. And the tools I'm going to use today, I'm going to use a regular pencil, number 2 HB. Oh, not my face. Where's my face? And I'm actually going to pull out my, maybe I'm not. I guess I'll just start with this and see what happens with my pencils.
There we go.
All right. And you always have to keep your pencils sharpened, so I just used up all my pencils. I only have 10 minutes, well, 15 minutes in between classes, so sometimes it's hard to readjust what I'm doing from one to the next.
Here,
So,
I'll sharpen you up.
great. There's one on the floor there if you grab that too. So what we're going to do here is, what I want to try and do with the page is kind of, I'm going to think about what kind of shapes I want the mermaid or the merfolk to all right.
Okay.
They're too loud and this is too loud. So I'm going to stop talking for a second. I apologize.
Pencils.
We're going to close the door and shut out my loud children. So, okay, that's what you get when people stay at home.
And I'm off, so
All right.
you're here. I'm heading out.
Okay.
Have fun, everybody.
So, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm going to be trying to use this thing to answer questions as we talk. So, well, hopefully I'll be able to catch your things, because I don't know. Anyway. So what I want to do first is I'm going to draw the head. And I pretty much always start this way. I kind of just swoop in the head, because I want to get a good sense of what I'm starting with. And then I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to scribble myself down to creating the torso. And once I have the head and the torso in, I'm going to want to draw through the two of them into some kind of a sweeping swirl. This is actually looking a little too much like the one I did before, but that's okay. So I'm going to make my torso. It's probably not dark enough yet, so you can see I'll move in closer. I can hear someone dinging. Unfortunately, I don't have someone reading my emails right now, so I'll have to check on here. I don't know if that works. Oh yeah, a merfolk is like, well, a merfolk in Magic the Gathering is this their word for a merman or a mermaid. It's like the generic phrase for mer person. So that's really what that means. So anyway, it's basically a creature that is part fish, part human. So I'm going to turn this into a bubble and make a head bubble here. And then I'm going to make a chest bubble here. And I'm going to remember that I want to split those down the center and do crosshairs so I know where the front of it is. So this will be the front of my chest bubble. This is the front of my head bubble. I think I might actually change that, so I'll have the head of this creature going this way. And that crosshair is always how I denote what direction the character is looking in. So if this is where I do my crosshair, that's where the eyes are going to be, or right about here. They're going to be in here. And then the ear will be over here. So I'm going to draw through that to my rib cage here. And I think what I want is a contrapposto sensibility. So I'm going to have the neck twisting this way. So what I do is I grab these muscles called the sternocleidomastoids in here, and they go from the ear down to the center of the clavicle, which is here. And I'm just going to kind of indicate them. And I'm going to get that top part of the shoulder, the trapezius coming in over here, and you'll see it in a little bit. If I can zoom in a little bit closer so you can see it better, that'll help, I'm sure. So there we go. So now I've got my clavicle, I've got my chest area here, and now I'm going to draw in a hip area. So this is a man. I want the hips a little lower than if it was a woman. I would have the hips up higher. So I'm going to bring the hips lower down to here. So I'm going to draw a bubble for that. In fact, I'm actually going to draw it up here to really kind of accentuate that curve of the merfolk. So I'm going to bring my arc of the body along like this so that the hips will be tilted like this. So if this was a person, I might draw their underwear like that. But since it's not a person, they're not going to wear underwear. But I'm just going to do that anyway. And then what I can do is, if I bring this here and around and back, I'm going to bring from the back of the hip around to the front. Now if this was a person, this would be where the thigh was. I'm going to bring it around from the front to here. And I'm going to bring from this hip, I'm going to bring around from the front and down. And I want to imagine that this side of the fish body is kind of in front of this side of the fish body, so I'm going to kind of have that overlap here. So what's on the back of the body back here is going to come forward under here. So whatever's back there, which I think is fins, are going to come forward here. So as I come around down here, I'm going to kind of indicate finny type things with triangles coming up. And then I'm going to put a fish tail shape here, which is really just two big curved triangles that meet in the middle. It's more of a whale's tail, but, you know, oh well. So these fins don't have to be quite so big. I think that's a little bit of exaggerated. But now now that I've got this clavicle in, I want to establish where the shoulders are going to go. So the shoulders are going to be here, and this one's going to be in front of the torso, and this one's going to be behind the torso. So I do an overlap line here, and I overlap this shoulder over the chest here. The idea is that this comes in front of the chest on this. This comes in front of the chest on this side, and this comes behind the chest. And then I'm going to overlap a forearm, and I can measure that out from the tip where the clavicle meets the deltoid muscles in here. That distance, I'm just going to say it's about the length from the clavicle to the top of the head, about so to the elbow. And I'm eyeing that. On a human being, it's a little different, but I'm going to eye that because I kind of want this to look a little bit weird. So I'm going to give it long, kind of sinewy arms. So that's where I'm going to put the elbow. And then here I'm going to give it long, sinewy arms to the elbow back there. And then I'm going to double that until we get to the hand. So, well, the wrist, more accurately. So the wrist will be here, And I'm thinking about tubes. So my arm is essentially a tube like this, connected to another tube like that, connected to a shape behind it like that. So it's like a ball with a tube and a tube. So now I put the tube in, and I put the hand, and when I draw the hand, what I do is I connect from the top of the arm to the back of the hand, because there's a natural motion that flows right to the top of the hand off the back of the arm. And then I can put my knuckles here and kind of draw a bubble for that. And we'll go down, down, down. I'm indicating the fingers very lightly just to kind of give them a nice sharp edge. See if anyone's asking any questions. Anyone? Bueller? Nope, just Guillermo Zubiaga, or Zubiega. I don't know how you say that, but whoops. Oh no, I hit the next thing. Okay, well, I'll try and get back to the stream as quickly as I can. Anyway, hopefully we're still on. So back here, I'm going to bring this arm up. I'm going to make the tube section. Again, with that same idea of a tube, I turn it this way. And I can even draw stripes around it just to keep myself honest. I'm going to make this kind of a vase shape. So it gets wider and then thinner as it goes towards the wrist. And I kind of don't like this direction of the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it down. So I'm going to have the head going down so it looks like so this merman is kind of looking down like so. And what I'm drawing right now is kind of this shape here kind of gives me the eye socket and the cheekbone edge, so I can see the front plane of the face as opposed to the side plane of the head. And I know that the ear is going to start right where the jaw meets the upper part of the head, the cranium. So I'm going to draw that down to there. And as I erase, you'll see how these things start to come together. The neck connects out here at the base of the cranium, so I'm going to bring that around. And then the sternocleidomastoid comes like so. So it'll look like something like this. I'm exaggerating that a little bit. So let's bring that in. And then on this side it's going to compress. So we'll get a nice compression on the neck. But then the trapezius, because it's squishing up, that's going to compress and exaggerate. And this back here is going to flatten. And so that means this is going to exaggerate a little. And then we're going to flatten over the tricep bicep area. A lot of the marks that I do is on one side of the body it'll go out, and on the other side it'll go out in response to it, like so. But then in reflection, this goes straight or concave, and this goes straight or concave. So you get this kind of in-out support system that goes through the whole body. And that, like, you don't even know what those muscles are, but they just kind of have that muscular feel because it's things interconnecting and flowing underneath and above. So I always think about that when I'm doing the muscles. So here, I know that on a human, we'd have our deltoid muscles coming around like so. So I'm going to start to draw that in very lightly so that I have and then we're going to have our pectorals here. And since this is a male of the species, I'm going to be a little bit more bulky on those pectorals. We'll get our lats in. throw in our ribs. And then we'll get, since this side is squishing, this side has to extend. So we'll extend this out a little bit more straight. I always take like some notes from animation in that we have a squash and a stretch. So if this is squishing in, we're going to have a concave area here. We always want to adjust, make sure that we know that these things go in front. So we do this coming over that, over this shape of the far hip slash fish part. And then on this side, we're going to make sure that we have the, oh, I'm forgetting the name of it now, right in here. Lateral oblique in here. And then what would be a hip on a human right here. And we'll bring the pelvis in, or not the pelvis, but the abdominal muscles in and around like so. So then we can draw them kind of angling around the body like so. And then as we get further down along, this will go back. And then eventually it'll start to turn and come straight. And eventually forward like so. So with the arm, I'm going to get back up here. I like to keep in mind that these are three-dimensional forms that I'm drawing, not two-dimensional. So as I go around things, I want to make sure that I am keeping all these forms overlapping and keeping in mind the muscles and stuff that's going underneath. And then same thing here. As the bicep bulges up, the tricep flattens out. As this squishes in over here around the brachialis and the pronator and all that, this is going to straighten out here. This can straighten out a little bit more, I think. And then we're going to put the hand in here. I know someone is commenting and I don't know what to say because I can't see what they're saying. So I apologize, guys. But because I don't have my partner to help me today, this is all just me. My wife is currently undoing her, well, not undoing, but kind of taking apart her office and getting some things ready. She works in food security, so she's probably going to be working, but they have to have her separated out in her office. They have to change how the office is working. But so I'm going to curve up around the pecs, around the rib cage here, and then flatten under and around. And then when I get to the hand, I kind of jump around a lot, as if you can't tell. But I'm going to draw the hand. I'm just going to draw a circle for now, or a box. I'm going to turn it into a box. So, like so. And this is going to be a fist, I think. Here. And we're going to draw a thumb. Remember, there's three joints. There's this one, and then the big pad that goes underneath and connects in. Then we've got our fatty pad on the far side of the hand, and then the knuckles are all going to come in almost like they're forming a box. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. And one of the things you want to avoid doing is having them all pointing in the same direction. The fingers kind of point in separate directions. So one will go this way, one will go that way, one will go this way, one will go that way. And the pinky actually kind of curves under. So you want to make sure you have that figured out. Now, let's get onto the head. So since the center of the face is going to be here, I have my keystone here, which is the area between the two eye sockets. And I have my two sockets. One here, one there. Now I have to check. What do merfolk have for noses? I don't even remember. I think they should. I'm not even going to check. I'm just going to say they have slits. So Now, one thing I can do is I can put circles here for the cheekbones and kind of rounded forms for the brow, and then an area for the area right over the nose of these muscles that fit right where the nose goes. And then I think humans kind of have a muzzle over their mouth. So we'll draw that in. It's rounded. And the mouth goes over there, and then can bring the chin underneath and in. And then I'm going to draw the eye in, but first I'm going to draw the whole eye in the socket as much as I would see without eyelids. And then later on I'm going to throw eyelids in. And remember that the upper eyelid fits over the lower eyelid. And now, since this is the center, I'm going to give this guy kind of a finny mohawk. I don't know why, but it sounds cool. Give him a fin mohawk. So he'll have a fin that kind of comes up like this and maybe out like that. It's kind of like this character from the old Guardians of the Galaxy comic books from years ago. He's in the movies, but he looks very different in the movies. He's the blue guy with the red fin who has the flying arrow, but he used to have a gigantic red fin. He was really cool in the comics. So now from his ears, I'm going to give him kind of neat, big ears that are kind of fins. So I'm going to start them like I'm doing elf ears. So I'm going to start where an ear would start, come around and out, and then I'm going to bring this in to maybe his lower jaw here, so that there's this sense that they kind of go around and out there. And then I want to draw the nose in, so I'll get the nose in there. And I'll put the mouth. It's important to remember that the mouth is on a curve. It's not straight. So even though the mouth is curved under, I want him to have a mouth that's like a little bit open. So even though the closed mouth would look like that, I'm going to give him a bit of a mouth over it, like so. I think these eyes look a little bit too simple, so I'm going to make the eyes a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit creepier looking. Because I don't know, I think a fish guy would be pretty creepy, not necessarily beautiful. I don't imagine the Little Mermaid for a real fish person. So he's going to have high cheekbones. So I'm going to follow these cheekbones here. And I'm going to give some darks in there. Dark inside the interior between the eye and the nose. So in the brow there. Basically to accentuate the fact that the eye is set in. And then we're going to connect this up like so. Now, I'll bring this back down like this. So what's going to happen is if I have this fin here, I kind of want to follow it up with a fin back here. And that will be behind the body and kind of sink behind back here. But then as it comes forward again, we'll see some of these fins here. And I think I'm going to lower the fin so it doesn't, the tail, so it doesn't interfere with his arm. So as this comes up like so, maybe I'll make this get wider much sooner. Sorry, I can't see your comments right now because I don't have an assistant. So if you're commenting, I'm sorry, I can't answer you. But I will try to answer you afterwards. Hopefully that'll still be helpful. And I am going to post this up on YouTube as well, so you can see the whole thing on YouTube. So now I've got the construction of my figure. And now it really comes down to how do I want to decorate this guy? And I say decorate, I mean like, what's he going to wear? What's he going to What's it going to have on his body? What's he going to look like? And so one of the things I tend to do when I get to this point of the drawing is I start to look at nature, and I kind of want to see, like, you know, see these stripes and these colors that are going on with the fish here. And that's kind of the thing I want to replicate on my character here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, ooh, that's kind of nice, right? It's, you notice that they have these multiple, like dark green, light blue, and then black stripe. So as I go through with my second level of drawing, which is really to darken it up, that's where I'm going to really start to think about what my patterns are going to be. So let's get this in. Clean up this drawing a little bit. And by clean up, what I mean is I get rid of the extra lines. Now, frequently what I will do, once I have this kind of structure in, I end up cleaning up the lines by doing a light boxing of it. But if I don't have the choice of light boxing like I don't right now, I can just use a pencil and eraser to go in and erase it. Just makes it a little harder because makes it a little harder because the eraser can easily erase things that I do want. So with the mouth there, just so that I can explain it, the mouth sits on a muzzle on our face, and so it goes around like this. Like if you were to look at the teeth kind of do this, and they go around and they disappear on the other side. So the lips come up and around like so, around the teeth, and then you end up with this kind of look like that. So I always want to make sure that I keep in mind the center, and I keep in mind that this is a three-dimensional object. Let's separate it out. The cheekbones are 3D. The brow is going to be 3D. I'm going to make this guy look a little creepy because I like the idea that fish people would not be necessarily very lovely to look at. So let's see here. I think it would be fun to experiment with a little bit more fishy mouth, but right now I think I'm going to go with this. But then when it comes to the design of the fins and the character stuff, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to create a stripy look for this guy to really kind of give it some motion. And then I can erase these extra lines in here. And I'll do the same on the edge of these fin ear things. Fin ear gill things. Because I imagine these creatures have fin gill type things. It's so funny when you're drawing, when I'm drawing at least, I sometimes don't even know what my drawing's going to look like until I've gone through it, and then suddenly I'm like surprised. I'm like, wow, I didn't expect that to look like that. I had no idea this was going to look like this. So there you go. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to give some fin stuff in here, or gill stuff more accurately, in there. I just put those marks in there just to kind of make it feel like it's gilly, to put it bluntly. And I'm going to get those clavicles rebuilt so that we can really see how the muscles adhere. And I think this guy needs to have like some sort of a crusty, kind of barnacle-y, necklace-y thing, torque kind of a thing. So I think I'm gonna draw something that's kind of like got a loose, torquey, kind of creaturey, shelly thing, so that it feels a little bit more So he's going to feel. So when I'm going to clean that up, I'll just loosely clean up these lines a little bit once I've got the design in, and then I can kind of go in and redo this stuff. Well, my dog is barking because my kids are outside. She wants to play with them. Sorry about that, guys, but she's going to have to just be quiet and deal with it. She's been out. So give him that kind of a symbol, and then let's see, what do fish eyes look like? So I'll look here on some fish eyes. Oh, that's creepy looking. Look at that. I like how they have that black spot in the middle. So I'm going to give him a nice big black spot. Make him look really alien. And then we'll go, or fishian. And we'll put some fins on his arms. I'm going to check the time because the dog may need to go. Okay, I've got 10 more minutes or so. So we'll have to deal with the dog barking a little bit. So he's going to have some fins here. And for the hand, with this hand, I want to make it kind of look deadly. So I'm going to give it nice, sharp talon hands to really push out that idea that he's really dangerous. And every line I draw on the surface here kind of gives me more of the impression that the arm is three-dimensional. So these lines actually should be thicker than the lines at the edge, or the marks at the edge, because I want to make sure that it feels three-dimensional. And if I draw thick lines on the edge, it looks flat. But if I draw lines inside the form, it feels more three-dimensional. So let's get this in here. Some rib cage action. I guess he's got lungs as well as gills. Let me shade in there so we know the difference between his gills and his necklace there. And then we're gonna get some muscles here. Accentuate the fact that this guy is ripped. Yeah, ripped fish. And then we're gonna get that fish body down here. Now, it's kind of weird, like, to think that fish might have hips. They don't. So, the thing that I can think about is that whales have hips. And so maybe mer people aren't so much fish people as they are like fish, water mammals, like a porpoise or a whale. It'd be kind of weird, huh? No one's ever said that before, except I know in old myths they've talked about how maybe mermaids in old myths were once were actually porpoises or dolphins that people saw. So the stories of people getting saved by mermaids were actually people getting saved by dolphins. It'd be weird to look at a dolphin and say, "Oh yeah, that's a cute lady in a bikini," but apparently someone did. So now I'm gonna finish out this leg. I mean, not leg, but this tail. And we're going to bring this up here so we see the backside of his fishy tail, fishy fin. And then I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with the big fin on top. I'm going to make these stripes that come in. Quite frankly, because right now it's the easiest thing I can do. Some of the patterns on fish are quite elaborate, and one of the problems is that they don't necessarily follow the form of the fish, specifically because they're meant to be camouflage, and they don't want you to see their form. And when you're trying to draw that and still maintain a semblance of volume and form in your drawing, it's harder to kind of have a pattern that breaks the volume and form, that still gives the impression of still gives the impression of the volume and form and of camouflage. Because you know, if you draw an animal that's wearing camouflage, or even a man that's wearing camo, the camo is meant to break up the form of the man or the form of the animal. So if you draw too much camo on stuff and you let the values of the camo interfere with the values of the if you let the values of the camo, interfere with the values of the structure of the body, it's like any patterning you put on top has the potential, any pattern you put on top of the figure has the potential of breaking up the figure in such a way that you can't read the figure anymore. So you always have to be careful with your decoration when you're decorating a figure, you're coloring a figure or whatever, that the patterns that you put on only work to help support the anatomy or the structures, or you just don't let those values get dark enough to undermine the deep shadows you want from the actual form. So here we go. I don't think he's going to have a lot of sharp fins on his tail because I think that kind of undermines it a little bit. Makes it a little harder. A little harder to draw him. And I'm going to be able to make this feel a little bit more simple and clean. I want to make those eyes look really creepy, so I'm going to make them a lot bigger. I really want this guy to feel kind of inhuman, and because I don't imagine them being very human. You know, but you got some things that are kind of basic to fantasy, like pointy ears and stuff like that. So you have to make your peace with that. I don't like this tip going like that, so I'm gonna change that to go back. Makes him feel a little bit more angry. I don't know, I imagine he's an angry fish. I'm an angry fish. So now for depth, what I want to do is I want to create throw some water ripples in. Not ripples, but they're the water, kind of create the sense of water flowing and taking in light from the surface, and the light kind of pouring through and creating the sense of depths. What I've noticed is that when I draw the water, I'll do these nice shapes like so, and they tend to separate the character from the background and act as a framing device. And then you could even throw in a little bit of shade here, a little bit of shade there, a little bit of shade. And then we can start cleaning up these upper marks, getting rid of stuff that appears on the surface that is throwaway marks. The tail's going to be interesting because we want to make the tail feel 3D, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like a shadow form over it to give it some volume, to determine the kind of the edge of the terminal line through here, and I'm going to do the same under here to kind of create the impression of things kind of folding under itself. And then over here I'm going to do the same. And I think I'm going to tone this all up. Or tone it down. To make it feel a little bit like it's coming toward us. And use not necessarily cross hatch, but crossing lines to create this sense of depth. And so I might just do another section here to give the impression of three-dimensional form. And what's nice is what I can start to do is I can start to think about, okay, if this comes through like so, and we really think that the light is coming from this angle, we can start to throw in a little bit of shadows anywhere that's 90 degrees from the light source. So like this here would be in shadow, and cast shadow from the head as well as being away from the light source. And then we'll do the same here. And really separate this out here. So for that transition between the human parts and the fish parts, I'm going to darken that through there. And then I can pull the eraser out and separate these things out a little bit. And I'm going to check the time because I think I'm pretty much done. Oh, no, 3 more minutes. Okay. So what I could do is I could start taking questions now. If anyone has any questions, please start asking me, and I'm going to check the time because I think I'm pretty much done. Mike? Oh, no, 3 more minutes. Okay. So what I could do is I could start taking questions now. If anyone has any questions, please start asking me, and That's weird. Check the time because I think I'm pretty much done. Mike? Oh, no, 3 more minutes. Okay. Oh, that's really weird. Okay. What I could do is I can start taking questions now. If anyone has any questions, please start asking me, and That's weird. Check the time. 'Cause I think I'm Stop this. It's like I'm going through a crazy loop. But so I could go in with my darker pencil and kind of shore up the darks in here, like I've done before. Kind of make sure that what's dark stays dark and what's light separates out. And what I really want to do is make sure that the things that are the really dark areas on the form really separate out here. Anywhere where either there's a cast shadow or light can't get out, so like areas like inside the eye socket here, where the light's really kind of trapped inside there, or especially where 2 objects meet, tends to be a really strong area of dark. So wherever 2 objects are going to lay on top of each other. So anytime that happens, that's where you're going to really find darks. So anytime I do that, so I create these darks in here. And now I switched, just so you know, I switched to a colored pencil. Hopefully that makes it look a little darker for you guys about that there. But anywhere, like I said, like anywhere where there's going to be objects closing in on each other, so where the fingers meet and stuff like that, that's where we're going to get the darkest areas. Anywhere where a form is blocking the light, or where a form is creating a shadow, 2 objects meet. Anywhere where we need to really create depth. It's that dog again. I'll have to get her out in a minute. But I hope everyone enjoyed drawing with me. If you did do a drawing, I'd love to see what you did draw, because it's always exciting. And you know, this is the more adult class, so I have a feeling that there's going to be less drawings from this class than from the kids class. But think you should try. If you don't normally draw, try it. You know, it's fun to watch, but you know, you never know what you're going to learn, and you never know how much you can expand your mind by drawing. I mean, one of the things about drawing is, you know, drawing for many, many years before photography came around was the way that scientists observed the world. And in a way, I think it's a different way of observing than looking at a photograph, in that by observing it through drawing, you actually understand how it's made. A photograph presents a kind of a two-dimensional light captured view, but a drawing can actually allow you to feel around the forms and draw over and around forms. And I think that is another kind of understanding that's different than the kind of understanding you get from just looking at a photograph or just looking at something. It's, you actually can comprehend how things are made, or how they're developed that way. You can understand the structures underneath, and also you can create something that has lyricism and beauty to it, in a different way than a photo, which is also, you know, can be beautiful, but in a different way. I think drawings allow you to almost instill beauty with your own hand, as opposed to finding the beauty in the world around you. You can actually find it and then instill other things, other thoughts, and other ideas into your drawings. So now I'm just kind of texturizing things with this dark. But really the main thing is to make sure that I'm keeping up with the values and the darks and everything that I want to create in here. So, hey everybody, thank you very much for joining me. Hopefully the craziness at the beginning of the video won't drive you so nuts that you don't want to see the rest of this video if you see it on YouTube. But it probably will. But anyway, this was a lot of fun, and it was great to be able to do something a little different than what I did for the kids drawing. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I'm going to be doing this again on Monday, because I just need some days off where I can actually do my work. But this is a lot of fun, and anyway, have a great day. Oh, and I'll definitely do some inking. It sounds like I have to now. Man, that camera's blurry. Oh well. Hi.
Can I have my water glass?
You can. And you know what else you can have? This. All for you. See? Look at how wonderful things I have for you.
Thank you.